Assalamu alaikum students and welcome back to new video. Earlier we have discussed about types of farming in detail. There are three types of farming as mentioned earlier: primitive subsistence farming, intensive subsistence farming, and third one commercial farming. In the last video we have seen primitive subsistence farming. Let's recall what we have learned in the last video briefly. The primitive, that means they use traditional old primitive method for agriculture, for cultivation. They do not use fertilizers or any other modern means of farming. Rather, they follow those traditional way. And this type of farming is labor intensive farming. And they do not hire labor, but generally agriculture work done by either family members, and sometimes they take help of community, neighborhood, or other relative, friends, family, right? And this type of farming, this type of agriculture comprises slash and burn type of agriculture, which is also known as Sweden agriculture. And different regions, in different regions of India as well as in different parts of the world, it has different names. About names in the last video we have seen, and in notes I will provide you list as well for the remembering purpose. Now today we are going to discuss about that second type of farming, which is intensive subsistence farming. Let's see what is intensive subsistence farming. This type of farming practiced in areas of high population density. And due to high population density, in countries like India, more pressure on land. That means per head less land. More people are engaged in land, more people on the land. But here pressure is more. That means each of them have small part of land, small piece of land. So here what do? They try to get more productivity from the piece of land. It is labor intensive farming. Here small piece of land, so adoption of machines not feasible for them. So generally most of work done with the help of labor. So intensive subsistence farming is labor intensive work. Earlier we have seen primitive subsistence farming also labor intensive work. They do not use modern machines or tools. They use primitive tools, right? But here there is difference between primitive subsistence and intensive subsistence farming in terms of labor, because in primitive they take help of their family members, and sometimes they take help of their friends and relatives or community members, right? They do not hire laborers, but they take help. I use word here help. But here in case of intensive subsistence farming, they hire laborers, as machines not feasible for them, like harvester tractors not feasible for them. So such kind of work done by human labor, so they hire laborers more. Here high dose of biochemical inputs and irrigation are used for obtaining higher production to get most out of land, more productivity out of land. They hire laborers, they can't use machines and tools, but they use some of the modern means of farming, like here biochemical inputs. So they use hybrid seeds, HIV seeds, high yielding varieties of seeds, fertilizers, chemicals, as well as irrigation methods they use. Why? Because they have small piece of land and they need to get more productivity from that. So to increase production, they use modern inputs. Not all modern inputs are feasible for them, but as much as feasible for them, possible for them, they try to use modern means of farming. Okay, one more thing is here. Why small piece of land? Here we need to understand the chronology of it, because here in India we know that right to inheritance, mostly in rural areas and mostly in the family of farmers. I am talking about mostly generally, not all, but generally this pattern we observe. Right to inheritance. Means that land, for an example, 10 hectares of land owned by a person is a farmer. So 10 hectares land, that reasonably good. Okay, not so good, but it's okay. That's good enough for survival of family, for normal life for a family. 10 hectare land is enough. But here right to inheritance. So after that person, his children will get land in inheritance. But in most of the Indian family, we observe that many children, two, three children, that is mostly common in Indian family, especially in rural areas, right? So suppose two children, two sons of that person. So after death of that person, his two sons will get equal land share, because generally due to lack of other livelihoods or lack of education, right, or other skills, they prefer to engage in the same activity. Like earlier we have seen in the economics, sectors of the Indian economics, where we talk about, we have done some discussion about primary sector, agriculture sector. So same, here we are talking about the same topic. So here this 10 hectares of land divide among two children, two sons. So each of them will get 5 hectares. So per head land, which was 10 hectare, now decrease 5. Similar, again the same thing applicable to them. 5 hectare land again in the next generation will be divided among sons, 2 or 3 sons of each. And here once again I am telling you, people prefer, to those who are actually engaged in agriculture, they prefer to work in agriculture. Again I am telling you reasons behind that, like lack of job opportunities, as well as due to lack of education and skills. They have to remain in the same economic activities as their parents and grandparents did. So here due to right of inheritance, generation by generation, per head land decreases. So ultimately those people get land, small piece of land. Not landless, but still they have small piece of land. So to get more production in the same piece of land, those people use modern means of agriculture, and that what we call pressure on land increase. So the farmer continue to take maximum output from the limited land with the use of fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, HYVCs, etc. Those we call modern means of farming. And one more thing, as I am mentioning along with it, they try to get maximum output. To one of the reasons, as I said, due to lack of opportunities of job, the other opportunities of livelihoods are not available in the area. So people prefer to survive on their land only. So thus there is enormous pressure on the land. So this type of farming is called intensive subsistence farming. So till now we have seen two types of farming: primitive subsistence farming, which use that primitive and here primitive methods, and here they use that modern means of farming in an intensive basis. Alright, that is why what we call intensive subsistence farming. Now we are going to talk about the third type of farming, which is commercial farming. Commercial. This word also clarifies the type of farming, commercial. So of course, farming not for surviving family, but actually to earn money for the commercial purpose. Like in the primitive subsistence farming I mentioned, here farming they use mostly food they use, like staple crops they used to grow: wheat, rice, barley, sweet potatoes, cassava, or other. Which type of crops they used to eat as their staple crops? So generally they grow that. They do not grow for selling, but yes, for survival of their family. And sometimes they exchange their crops with other farmers. So they do not go to market and sell, for survival only. That is in primitive subsistence farming. In intensive, here they try to get maximum production from the piece of land, and they sell to local market. And here commercial, so entirely here for the commercial purpose. And this type of farming mainly they grow crops which mainly used in industries as raw material. Right, so let's talk about the commercial farming. So the main characteristics of this type of farming is higher dose of modern inputs. As commercial farming, this type of farming generally conduct into large pieces of land. So using of modern means of farming feasible for them, affordable for them. So here they utilize maximum possible of modern means of farming like high yielding varieties of seeds called HYV, high yielding varieties of seeds, chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, chemical weedicides, right? So such type of modern means of farmings they use, as well as they utilize tools and machines, modern tools and machines, harvester, tractor, thresher. Those are feasible for them. More they also use that irrigation methods, either bore tube well or water canals. So certain types of irrigation techniques they utilize in the farming. More here, the degree of commercialization of agriculture varies from one region to another region because region to region, area to area, commercialization is different, and also they take different types of crops. Like for example, rice is commercial crop in Haryana and Punjab, but in Odisha it is subsistence type of crop. Like example, in Punjab and Haryana, there are farmers and there are big farmers. They have large land, so they can grow here commercial type of rice. They take rice in the huge piece of land, but Assam or Odisha, they use like primitive method. In Assam, they used to grow rice in the primitive method through terrace farming, and sometimes they also use second method, which is intensive subsistence farming. So region to region commercialization may vary, and types of crops may vary too. About types of crops, why vary? Why does commercialization vary? Means why differences are there? Next we will learn in upcoming topics. Plantation. Plantation is also type of commercial farming. What is plantation? Plantation means the same type of crops that grow in the large area, that is called plantation. And in this type of farming, a single type of crop is grown in the large area. The plantation has an interference of agriculture and industries, and mainly in plantation they grow crops which used to raw materials in industries. Plantation in plantation type of farming, farmers grow crops which uses raw materials in industries. So plantation cover large tracts of land, and they generally take help of migrant workers because this plantation work is also labor intensive work and it requires migrants. Laborers. So due to unavailability of laborers, they use migrant workers. Migrant means migration from different areas, different regions. Those are called migrants workers. I think you are much aware about migrant workers after the crisis of them during the first lockdown session in India. They suffered a lot. Sympathy for them. All right. So those are migrant workers. So apart from it, they also produce raw material. They mainly produce raw material in the respective industries. So what are mainly raw materials like sugarcane? Sugarcane is raw material, right? Yeah, of course. People used to eat sometime, or they crush it and drink juice of it. Those are side importance of or side uses of sugarcane. Main uses of sugarcane in India to produce sugarcane and jaggery, right? So sugarcane and jaggery mainly produced in the industries. So sugarcane we count as raw material in industry. Apart from sugarcane, rubber, banana, different type of spices and condiments, cotton. Those are different types of crops which use as raw material in different industries. And in different areas, in different regions, different types of crops are commercial crops in different area. Like tea. Tea is also commercial crop, right? And we also export tea, but we do not export leaves of tea. We generally export that black tea, right? Which is processed tea. Green tea, black tea, those are actually processed tea. So tea in Assam and North Bengal, as well as in some part of Karnataka and Kerala, commercial crop, as well as coffee in Kerala and Karnataka. Is it a commercial crop? Apart from it, that production is mainly used in market, because this type of commercial crops use market. So, better communication and transportation system, as well as nearby market, those are preconditions for commercial crops. More processing industries are also one of the key factors of commercial crops. Apart from market, communication and transportation, processing industry is also key factor. Why? Because like I just mentioned, tea we cannot utilize that in a raw form, we need to process it. So processing industries also play a vital role in the commercial crops. So here those are the key factors in commercial crops. Market, nearby market, because this type of crop may rot on within short period of time. So nearby market is a precondition. So to send the goods to the market, crops to the market, those farmers need well-developed transportation and communication system, as well as processing industries. So those factors play key role in development of plantation industry, plantation type of farming. So here we have seen three different types of farming. In the next video, we will discuss about cropping pattern. Difference between types of farming and pattern. These are types. Now pattern. Pattern is season wise. In detail we will discuss in the next video. Thank you so much.